Welcome to the sixth Digital Research webinar, Research Infrastructure webinar. This series will showcase digital infrastructure research projects and communities in the UK and beyond. Join us to learn about state-of-the-art initiatives that aim to advance research tools and techniques, foster collaboration and data sharing, and accelerate discoveries across a range of academic disciplines and sectors. Our guest speaker today, Xènia, is the Deputy Coordinator and Stakeholder Engagement Lead of ELIXIR-UK, and you'll be hearing from her shortly. But just a quick one on us at the DCC. So we've been organising this DRI webinar series. So we have a number of different services that we offer. We're an internationally recognised centre of expertise in digital curation, research data management and open science based in Scotland, in Edinburgh and in Glasgow. We were established in 2004 with a mission to help organisations worldwide make the best use of data in and for research, development and operations in all contexts, be them academic, industrial, governmental and more. Our team provide expert advice and practical assistance in storing, managing, protecting and sharing digital data and obtaining the best value from it. Our services include hands-on training, a tailored consultancy, expert data management tools, including our DMP online platform, our International Journal of Digital Curation, which you can see has a brand new logo as well, which is exciting, as well as our IDCC conference, which we're hosting in Lisbon in Portugal next year. Our call for submissions are currently open as well, so we will email you with a link to that if that is of interest. So just before we hand over to Xènia, I want to host a couple of questions, both from us and from Xènia as well. So if you have a handheld device, you simply just need to look at the QR code, scan the QR code, or you can enter the code IFXXLBE into the browser. Once you type in wooclap.com into the browser, then you simply need to type in the event code IFXXLBE. That will allow you to join us today. So as I say, we've got 4 questions now and then 2 after the Q&A as well. So I'll just give another 10 seconds or so for a few people to join in. Thanks, Joy. And thank you, Agnes, as well, for posting the call for submissions. So the code will still remain on the screen for those who haven't joined yet. So first of all, we'd like to get an idea of who's calling in today, because whilst this was initially for data infrastructures in the UK, we are looking to push that further afield as well. And we have seen that reflected in our audience as well, with the UK always very well represented, but we have had colleagues from Estonia, Saudi Arabia and Denmark as well across the series. So yeah, always good to know who's calling in for these sessions as well, for us and for our guest speakers as well. So yeah, good representation from the UK and particularly Scotland as well. So yeah, do continue to feed into that, where you came from. We'll shortly be asking the next question, which is, what is your job title? So what is it, the name of the role that you're currently employed in? Typically, we get a large contingent from research data specialists, digital curators, data managers. So it's always good to see different people from different backgrounds joining us as well, but always with a large nod to research as well, as you'd expect in these webinars. Yes, for anyone who's just joined, you just need to go onto wooclap.com and enter the code IFXXLBE. The details are in the chat. So thank you for putting your answers in there as well. Our penultimate question, before we have our guest speaker introduce ELIXIR-UK, we'd just like to get an understanding of how familiar you are with this organisation. Which is always good. We normally seem to have a little bit of knowledge about this, given this sector is fairly small and people are well known to each other. A little bit is good, because by the end of that, we might have another question to see how familiar you are after the presentation and the Q&A as well. So I'll just give that another 10 seconds if anyone else does have something to put in there for our final question before I hand over to Xènia for her talk on ELIXIR UK today. Okay, I think a little bit of knowledge is good, goes a long way as well, and we'll see how that goes. So, final question before I hand over. Are you a member of ELIXIR UK? With a lot of you saying you're a little bit familiar with their work. I would assume it'd be no, but we never know. And perhaps you'll be converted after this call today, after knowing a bit more about what it is as well. And even not sure to find out about that as well, about possibly how you can become a member as well. Okay, I'm just going to give that another 10 seconds. Please do continue to answer that. So it's wooclap.com. The code is IFXXLBE. And then answer, are you a member of ELIXIR UK? So we do have a couple of members, one not sure, with the majority not currently with membership to the organization. So this will be left on in the background. So if you have not had time to complete this yet, please do. But at this point, I'm going to hand over to Xènia. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll hand over to yourself. Xènia, welcome.
Thank you, Will. Thank you very much. While I'm sharing the screen, I'm just going to say it's good to see some of you know a little bit, but it's also good to see that maybe I get to challenge you on whether you are a member or not at the end of the talk. So for those of you who know a lot about this, I hope you find the talk nevertheless interesting, although many of the things I'll say you already know. But let's start with that. I think you can already see my screen. So first of all, thanks so much for inviting us today from the DCC. I think these type of conversations are very needed. So I'm going to be presenting about ELIXIR UK, but first I also will present what ELIXIR is. So the European landscape, and then zooming in into what ELIXIR UK is. It looks like everyone here is from ELIXIR UK, so I'm not just saying things that may not be relevant to all of you. So good to see that. So first of all, probably present something that you already know, is that the issue we have in the life sciences and what ELIXIR is trying to solve is that the life sciences are very vast. It incorporates so many different areas, from genomics, proteomics, plants, microbiomes. The breadth is really huge. And so no single lab or country can do it all alone. So it's also a scale problem. The only sustainable answer really to curve something like this is the shared infrastructure and the reuse. So nobody can keep pace alone for this. And this graph that you see here is actually quite outdated. This is from EBI from 2020. So the how big question has gotten even bigger in the last years. And again, it's not only the volume, it's also the breadth, right? We're looking at hundreds of database types, hundreds of data types as well, standards, so genomics, proteins, structures, plants, everything you can think of. I'm probably missing some of them here. So that diversity is exactly what we need, shared standards and connected resources rather than one-off solutions, and what ELIXIR is trying to do here. So I want you to picture something, if you're not familiar with research infrastructures and federated research infrastructures. I want you to picture dots that are scattered, like the ones you see on the screen. These could be real communities, institutes, universities, databases, tools, anything you can imagine. And I want you to imagine them working in isolation for years. Brilliant, very good resources, very good people and teams, but fragile nevertheless if they're invisible to one another. Now, we know that collaborations happen ad hoc, but really to have a systematic way to connect those dots is exactly what ELIXIR is there to do. So disconnections, this is the whole idea. ELIXIR does not match the dots or take them over. It connects what already exists and try to amplify it. So the services, the knowledge, they stay owned by those those members, but we try to amplify that. And the elegance, and also a bit of the problem sometimes, is that when it works, the researcher just opens a browser, gets their answer from a solution, and they never think, oh, this was ELIXIR. So we're trying to aim for a seamless service as a goal for the end user, like a road that anyone can drive on. No one's thinking of it. You just drive on a road. And it's not that you have to go around knocking on every single door in order for you to get an answer. So maybe for those of you that are here that work on software or user experience, you'll recognize the irony. Success makes the work invisible, and it makes it look easy even when it isn't. So just to give you an example, and this is particularly important with sensitive human data, this is really the perfect example for why infrastructure matters. You often can move the data across a border, but you can build a system where the metadata travels and the access happens safely in place. So it's federated, it's governed, and it's trusted. And all of this requires not just the infrastructure, but also the people behind it that do the lobbying, the trusting and capability to deliver. Building a DRI framework, let alone across borders, is not a small feat. So this concretely is an example that you will probably recognize as something needed, is that a researcher in Norway can work with harmonized UK genomic data without, I don't know, negotiating agreements from scratch. So that's the kind of hard problem ELIXIR exists here to solve. So one thing that I really want to be clear again about is how this is all shaped. ELIXIR does not own the databases, the tools, the science. Those belong to those members and the communities who build them. So what ELIXIR adds is that connective tissue, that invisible part of it, or building the standards, the trust, the possibility to pool that effort and run projects together, the infrastructure or the services that otherwise would be scattered. So again, we connect and we amplify it, but we do not capture those. And this is just another image, a bit more organized, of what a picture of ELIXIR is. In the center, we can see the services, the resources. Right now, it's more than 500 in the portfolio of ELIXIR. Outside, we have all those organizations, the institutes, the members that we see at national level, and the orange dots in the middle, in between the services and those universities or institutes, are the nodes. Those are the ones that are pulling those structures together across 24 countries and in Bolivia. So one of my favorite lines, and I think this is something that a lot of people repeat in ELIXIR, is that ELIXIR reuses by default and invents only on demand. So again, we connect what already exists. We share what we know has been done elsewhere, and we make sure that those dots are not invisible to each other. And we build the things that are meant to last. So the mindset is always to have that difference together of the different things that we're doing, but making sure that things do not disappear after the project, after the funding ends. And again, just go maybe with the metaphors of the dots and what we're building here. And this is something that Carol Gall, head of Node, if she's still hearing it, will recognize, is that we really are talking about what is it that we need here. Do we need the Ferraris, the bespoke, the expensive services that only one lab can purchase, one lab with loads of resources? Or do we need the bus passes, the shared infrastructure that gets far more people access to tools and compute? And ELIXIR is really building for that. Perhaps we're building the road so Ferraris can still run on our roads, but really what we are trying to do here is that the bus passes, they get the services to every single institute and every single team that needs them. So more concretely, these are some of the services. These are the ones that we particularly endorse in the UK. Like I said before, there's many more. There's 500 of them and plus. I'm pretty certain I'm saying the number that's too small. And these are the services that thousands of people use every day, often without realizing that ELIXIR has anything to do with them, even if it's just an endorsement. So you go to Cath via Path TV or Pombase, and you don't think, oh, this is endorsed by a larger infrastructure. Again, the invisible connective tissue. And here's the scale that makes that metaphor a bit more real. So the number you see here refers only to the core data resources that we call in ELIXIR, so mostly databases. There's more than just the databases, but together all these resources hold over 2.7 billion entries. And these numbers are already very obsolete. I believe these are from before 2020 from a report that was done through 3 to 5 years. So the figure gets even bigger. And yet when this was captured, the data more than tripled, while staff grew by barely 6. So there's enormous reach. There's a team that is running very lean, and this is just shared across the community. So that's exactly what a bus ticket buys you. But when we need to continue these resources, what we need to do is make sure that the people behind them are able to keep funding these. And this is putting really teams in a very difficult situation. And again, this is why ELIXIR is here to help sustain this. On top of that, today, we need to add that we have AI and large language models answering questions about protein, a gene, or a pathway, and it's drawing on decades of expert curation. If that curation stops, the ground truth runs dry. And so it's not an anti-AI, it's a responsibility argument here. We have AI scrapers. I believe many of you will probably recognize this problem, that are hammering the very databases that we rely on. So we're running up costs for teams that were already very stretched thin. And meanwhile, funding flows to, I don't know, maybe a shiny new opportunity that you have, something novel, something AI related, which is great. But the curators and maintainers themselves often work on a rolling contract attached to a project. And the catch is that without the source, the AI models that we built on it are useless. So no source, no AI. I guess many of you here will be more or less on the same lines with this. So ELIXIR's answer to all these kind of problems that we can recognize is a coordinated advocacy. And not just Europe, we're talking about going even broader. So the ELIXIR endorsement is something that carries a quality signal that helps make the case to funders that these are strategic assets, these are strategic resources. So globally, for example, ELIXIR also supports the work of Global Biodata Coalition, yet another space that advocates for key resources that need that sustainable funding. And the reality is that the weight of 24 countries and many organizations behind ELIXIR is harder for a funder to ignore than simply a team stating my resource is essential, you should keep funding for it. These are just simply a few more examples of the kind of advocacy and policy changing work that ELIXIR as a whole is involved in. You can see some of them as perspective articles, some of them that are related to the Global Biodata Coalition. There's a lot more that you will find probably for you if you look for the kind of papers that we're involved in as an infrastructure at European level. There's also some work being done around an AI strategy. Currently, the focus is on AI factories, but it's expanding onto other areas of concern and interest for growth. So we hope this will be published very soon this year. And I would also encourage that if you are interested in the intersection of AI and life sciences, there's a new focus group in ELIXIR as well that is just for AI. This is open to everyone, with a few task forces that have just opened, for example, on agentic AI. So I would really encourage you to do that. I'm happy to pop the links on the chat afterwards if this is something that you would be interested in getting yourself into. So just to put it all together, how ELIXIR works is that in a nutshell, you have many communities in many different diverse areas working together internationally, European level, and they produce and support a number of interconnected services. Maybe through projects, maybe through the communities itself, but this is all underpinned by the support from all those countries behind ELIXIR and EBI as the nodes of ELIXIR. So you've seen a bit of the picture of ELIXIR and what we do as an infrastructure at European level, but I want to zoom in a little bit on what we do at the UK. So you've seen that ELIXIR is broad by design. It occupies and expands many different areas. But ELIXIR-UK as a node, we're focused by necessity. The node's job is to connect the UK strands into that wider picture of Europe, but Europe spans every life science areas almost. So the UK can't really lead on all of them, at least not nationally. So we concentrate where we're strongest. We encourage our members to join the wider European groups. We're not gatekeeping that sort of access. You can join any of the groups, communities of ELIXIR Europe, whether you're a member or not, they are still open to everyone. But we try to plug in those strengths as well back into the UK as much as we plug in what we have of strengths in the UK into that European infrastructure. So this is translated into real areas. On the left-hand side, you can see the communities, the focus groups, the platforms that we call, but these are really all communities of practice in ELIXIR Europe. And if you notice, there's some boxes that are colored in orange. Those ones are the ones where ELIXIR UK members are co-leading. So we have a fairly broad spread across all these different areas, even though we don't have those communities happening in parallel at UK level. So on the right-hand side, you see what we do at national level for communities of practice. We're focusing on training, on RDM, and on human and tech. That's changed, sorry, Human Data and Tech Lab. We recently merged with HDI UK community, so we're very proud of being able to collaborate there with them. And also very soon, we're probably going to open the bioinformatics core facility leadership community. If that's something that you're involved in, keep your eyes peeled for that. So again, strengths. we have the training, we have the RDM club, we have the data stewardship. That clearly, I think this is probably the part of the component you've seen the most. But we're behind the FAIR principles as well. We have many of the leading voices in FAIR in our community. You will see many of those names in, for example, the first published FAIR paper, also the 10th anniversary this year. And we have a lot of the resources also related to FAIR that are being led by people in the UK. So the RDM kit, for example, FAIR cookbook, FAIR sharing. As well, we have a lot of involvement in the workflows. The Workflow Hub is one of the key resources where ELIXIR UK members are putting a lot of their time into it. Same with Galaxy, Raw Crate as well. And also in the human data space, we've grown quite a bit with HDR UK also joining as a node member. So as I said, we've merged one of our human data communities with them, for example, and we're working a bit more on the TREs. So as a UK node, how many are behind this? We're quite a large node if you compare us with other nodes in Europe. We are 32 member organizations as of today, but we're trying to coordinate all that into one unified voice. Again, this is the aspect that we're trying to show here, that we try to get all those voices, all those needs from the different organizations, and try to have one unified voice that has more power than if we're scattered in those invisible dots that I mentioned at the start. So to put some names behind this coordination office, as I mentioned earlier, Carol Gobble, I think she's here, and I think our other head of node, Neil Hall, is also here. They are the joint heads of node. They are the ones that are putting together the strategy, the direction of ELIXIR UK. And behind this, there's a quite lean team as well, doing the coordination, more of the operational side of things. Myself, we're based at the Erlam Institute. Nicola Saranzo as well, he's the technical coordinator, and then Arianna as well as the node coordinator, all of us based at Erlam Institute. So again, what we are doing at UK level to give that support back is to help those products, those services that we see that other people, other organizations are doing, and perhaps they need a little bit of support. So I put here a couple of the examples of the services that we endorse. Health Data Research Gateway, that's the newest service that we've endorsed, but there's others like Feebase. I put it here as an example to see that if you are an endorsed service, what we try to do is give you as much visibility as possible, both at UK level and also at European level. So one of the key benefits of this is your visibility as a service across the UK and also beyond the UK. So sadly, the new call for services has just closed, so it's a little bit of a bad timing. But if you're interested in becoming one of our endorsed services, please reach out. We can start a conversation before our call opens next year. And just to give you two more examples of something a bit more concrete that we've done, I want to give you an example of somewhere where we had an influencing power and somewhere where we had the ability to empower others. So one of them, and maybe some of you have heard of this as well, is the ELIXIR UK Fellowship on Data Stewardship. This was built on a partnership with the SSI as well, and inspired by their very own fellowship model. It trained around 20 data stewards as their ambassadors in their institutions. It produced reusable training, RDM Bites, that were the short videos that were very easy to consume. And it really grew a community of people that, again, they were connected across the UK that didn't know each other. It has really become one of our most successful projects, and the impact is still something that we are seeing 2 years after it ended. So for example, in one of our other nodes, ELIXIR Netherlands, they have now built their own national fellowship on our model. And fellows also told us that it gave them really a good influence at their institutes. They were no longer a single voice saying, oh, you should care about RDM, you should care about FAIR data, but they had a community behind them and a stamp that said, actually, I've been selected, and this is me putting my hand up with a whole community behind it that is also supporting this. So sometimes those tangible benefits are not so tangible, but often invisible. On the other side, on something a bit more tangible, and I guess many of you here have already heard, maybe some of you heard the talk that was given here at DCC as well from BioFair. This is probably one of our most tangible things that we've done recently. We didn't just talk about FAIR and advocate for it, but we actually convened it. ELIXIR UK members conceived BioFair. They advocated for this for years until it happened, and it is really something that has now become a 34 million project from UKRI. And you probably heard a lot about this, more so than I can say today about it. But I want to highlight this because we are separate entities. We have different governance, but we're still very much involved on the outputs that come out of it. For example, we recently, and I say we, but this was left from Carol Gobble. We won the Methods Commons. It was a very competitive call, and again, this is something that we're very excited that it's happening. It's led by a team at University of Manchester, LM Institute, and also with Sakira. And it's going to be something that you probably will see a lot happening in the next few months, but it's all about shared reusable methods so that you're not rebuilding what already exists there. A lot in line with what I presented today, for reusing instead of building from scratch. And the other example that I can give you is one of the Pathfinder BioFed projects. There's not just one where an ELIXIR UK member is involved. I put this one here because I'm involved in it and because I think people that are connected to the DCC probably are interested in this. It has a lot to do with being able to translate a lot of the FAIR guidance into actually something that you put out into a workshop or a slide deck. So you don't have to spend the time translating what is already out there in magnificent resources, but already you need to put a lot of effort into translating them. So we give that to you already done. So just to sum this all up, I think it's clear that ELIXIR works because many people each do a small part of a bigger task. And this is just an image of the 2024 All Hands in Uppsala a couple of years ago. There's so many skills and roles just in this picture. And even though we call it All Hands, it doesn't even include a fraction of us in there. So it's just for you to see the sheer breadth and diversity that we get in ELIXIR, and that if you really want to be part of this, we're most welcome to help you join any of our communities, or maybe introduce you to someone that can lead the way for you to join something at European level. So to sum it up, it really takes a village to achieve the goal of this cross-border data sharing that ELIXIR is aiming to do. And even farther, it's not just within ELIXIR as an international organization, but also to other research infrastructures, international and national initiatives. So this is exactly why the kind of spaces created by people like our host today at DCC are really helping us make that bridge to other areas where we could work together and collaborate, and maybe we never thought of it. Maybe a quick example of this is the fact that some of our members are now working with areas that we were not even considering they were possible, right? I'm thinking, for example, PANOSC. In a very successful project with MTSX, ELIXIR had put together this training portal. It was very focused for life sciences. But what if we could use the same platform, the same work that we've done in the life sciences, and then replicate that success elsewhere? So those are the kind of things that we really can find as a synergy in between different research infrastructures and domains that are completely opposite to each other. So where do you come in? And this is really my last few bits of the presentation. I've put here a few ways that maybe are not so obvious, maybe they're obvious. The first one would be to just use the tools that we endorse. These are tools that we really back up as good resources, and that they are well used, they are well supported, they're all about open science. So we encourage you to have a look at these, whether it's in an ELIXIR UK side or in the ELIXIR Europe site. But if you want to be a bit more active, you can also join a community and connect your work to either our national groups or our European network, and build things together that they could make things that are going to be lasting a lot longer than just a grant that is funded, and then we try to find maybe some new funding in the future. But if you really want to join, whether you're a member or you're not, this is your space to do so. We really are opening everything. And then you may be asking, why should I be a member if you can join any community, if everything we do is absolutely open? The single difference of being a member or not being a member is simply your access to funding. If you're part of one of our member organisations, that means that you can join the projects at European level, either coordinated by ELIXIR or internal to ELIXIR, as much as our flexible bursaries at national level. So I want you to really think about whether you're a member or not, because these are the kind of benefits that a lot of people do not know they have. And I'm saying this because there's no cost to the organisations to join us as members, but there's a cost for our country to pay a subscription to be part of ELIXIR. Every year we have to make sure that our government thinks that this is important. We should keep investing in ELIXIR. And really, if a member that could be very useful and could give so much to Elixir is not there, sharing the ideas, getting something out of it, it's really a loss in the investment that we're doing as a country. So we really are trying to encourage everyone to talk to us if you think you have something to bring, and talk to us if you think you can be part of one of our projects or you have an idea that we can help you amplify. So there's a couple of things that you can do if you just want to test if this is for you, if this is the kind of community you want to be part of. There's the Biofair Pathfinder project call. We have a contentathon. This is just going to be a very informal conversation. This is to do with the project that I mentioned earlier, to translate the guidance into actual workshop slides, something that is an activity that you can take and run immediately. So if you want to come, just chat to us or the peers about your struggles, about what are the barriers to Showcase Fair. I really encourage you to join us. This is happening in 2 weeks' time, and if you have any doubts, happy to answer those as well. Another thing that you can do, if you're not sure yet whether this is the community you want to invest your time in, is to come to our All Hands. We have an All Hands happening in November 25th to 26th. Registration is not just open just yet. Probably in a couple of weeks it will open. It's taking place in Liverpool. And if you want to join us, I would really encourage you to scan the QR code. I'll put the link in the chat afterwards as well. Join our monthly newsletter and you'll get all of the updates, all of the opportunities coming up, including the registration to the All Hands. Just my last slide before I'll hand it over back, because I want you to have a look at the list of our members. And this is something that our head of Node, Carol Gobble, says it all the time, which is that you're a member if you're in one of these institutions, whether you like it or not. And the key is how active you want to be. So if you put more time into it, you reap the benefits out of Elixir. It's all about how much time you put in and how much you get back. So if you're here, think about whether you answer the first question as a no, because really you have access to all the benefits, including the ones international as both as national, in terms of funding, at least. So that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Xènia. So now we would like to open up to questions, and you have a few different options. You could put your question in the chat if you prefer, and I could read it out. Or you could raise your hand and unmute if you don't mind being on camera and in the recording, and please go ahead and ask your question yourself. So I will give you a few moments to gather your thoughts, but I'm sure there are questions about all the wonderful activities and resources that ELIXIR and ELIXIR-UK are doing.
I see quite a few questions already in the chat, as well as some help from Carol and maybe other people that know Elixir that have been sharing the links. So thanks so much for that.
Yes, there was a lot of exchange of resources. I don't see any specific questions yet, but I am happy to get us started. So I am very interested in the data stewardship fellowship that ELIXIR-UK ran, the lasting effects of it, but also just how you got started with it. How did you find your fellows?
Right. So the fellowship is something that probably we want to continue doing, but right now, as you probably have seen, is something we're not recruiting actively. We had 2 cohorts, and I'm not going to lie, one of the things that we were worried about was how many people were going to apply. Because as you probably know, a lot of the people don't have the data steward in their role. So a lot of people think, this is not me. I'm not a data manager even, so why would I even apply? But we were surprised to see that a lot of people applied, even people that are researchers, they're lecturers, but they do that part in their role of training others in data stewardship, data management. So we got a really good engagement. I can't really say that was one of our struggles, because we expected less and we got quite a few applications that we were not really hoping to get. And it was both from the junior end all the way to professors that apply to this. So I don't know what exactly we did right. Perhaps it was a way that we were communicating and also using a network that was already existing in the UK, right? We already had people in different universities that could say, hey, by the way, this could be a really good opportunity. And sometimes word of mouth is the most useful part, because someone you trust is sharing that information with you. It's not just a random email you get with apply here.
Yes, Joy, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to say thank you so much for the really great talk. It was lovely to hear all the work that's going on. It's very impressive. And thanks for all the links in the chat. I also thought it was really good just to see the list of members, because I think you're right. I think the people on the ground quite often have no idea what the organization at the senior level has signed up to. And I think sometimes it's just that awareness raising. So even just having that list there was really good. I was scouring to see if Glasgow was on that list, and I didn't see it. So I'll have to encourage them to join. One of the things I did want to ask you, I think previously in one of your slides, you were talking about the real difficulties in sustaining the technical side of infrastructure. You know, people want to pay for new and shiny things, but nobody ever wants to pay to keep things running and to do the necessary improvements. And we know that that's a real challenge with the technical side. But I was wondering, you know, given that such a huge emphasis of the work you do is on people, which I think is fantastic, do you see similar challenges in sustaining that work, or maybe different challenges? Because I know, you know, from the DCC's perspective, that can be a challenge as well. So just wanted to hear your views on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'd say that Glasgow is not a member. I think Carol has also answered that in the chat, but we would be very happy to see Glasgow joining. We know that they also join a number of the CLAP calls anyways. So again, just showing that this is open to everyone, and it would be fantastic to have you anyways. But answering also your question about the people side of things, I think there's some parts of ELIXIR that are not so visible to the people that are not inside of the infrastructure, and it's that internally there's some projects that are really there to build that people side of the infrastructure, not to fund others, but actually to look at what are the people doing inside infrastructure, how are we supporting them to know, for example, how to manage a community, to know how to manage a project, to know how to become a trainer. And so ELIXIR is doing quite a few bits there. There's a leadership program, for example, for women, because we see so many differences in gender when it comes to leadership, especially in bioinformatics and any other technical position. But there's also other things like training that is dedicated for people that want to do more on the operational side, training on how to communicate, on legal governance that is so needed as well for the type of work that we do. So I definitely see that there's a lot to do in that area. I'm not saying that ELIXIR is perfect, but it's doing quite a lot in that direction. On the community building side, perhaps there I have a bit more of a, maybe not negative, but maybe a bit more of a real perspective, because that's my part of the work, in the sense that I think we still need to do a lot more to help others on how to do that community engagement side, because it's not rocket science, but it really takes for us to share the tools, the resources that are out there. And again, this is the same work that we do in ELIXIR in other areas, but also on the capacity building side. So you will see resources, for example, from the CSCC that I'm pretty sure DCC is aware of. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to share across our infrastructure as well, because someone knows, but someone else may not know. So again, the invisible dots that otherwise those connections do not happen.
Great. Thank you very much for that. That's great.
Any other questions from the audience? And just to remind you, you could type your question into the chat. Okay, Stephen, please go ahead.
I feel targeted. I've been 6 months as the role is a data manager in Glasgow. So I'm the data manager for the College of Medicine, Veterinary and Life Sciences, and I definitely feel. And I've been 6 months in the role, and I'm definitely keen. I'm trying to build the network. I want to have a network. I don't want to come to you with just me saying I want to be a member on my own. So I want to build that. So yeah, I've spoke to some people in York. I've spoke to some other colleagues as well. So I'm definitely desperate to get Glasgow there, and I've spoken to Joy as well, and we've discussed this. I've got a meeting next week. I'm meeting some members from different schools, and that's going to be one of the things to try and push in ELIXIR. So yes, I'm there. I'm doing it. Okay. Thanks, guys.
I see that you've been highlighted, not targeted.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think that's something positive. I would also say, you can reach out to us even if you have doubts on how the application goes. It's quite lightweight. We can share with you examples of other members that have done it. So please, if you're having any struggles, we're here to help, right? It's not
You've done all that. You've done all that. It just kind of, I need a couple of people, and that's what we're doing. We're building kind of networks in Glasgow. So it's been 6 months. We've got we've got research data management network, and now we're going to have a data subgroup of research computing. So, and I'm chairing both of those. So I'm definitely keen to think. But I want to come with a network. I don't want to come just by myself. But thank you for all your help. I think you emailed me as well, Xènia, as well. So
I think it wasn't me. Maybe it was my colleague, but yeah, definitely I was copied in as well. Just making sure that if you need to reach out again, you can do so.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have another question, if no one else has one that's urgent. I'm very curious about the ELIXIR-UK endorsement program. Could you tell us a little more about the criteria you use, or maybe how do you decide if a service or a product is good enough to endorse?
Let me just look for the webpage where we have all this information if someone doesn't beat me to it. This is the page where we have the services and how we support them. I think it's important to say that we can't really give you endorsement in terms of funding straight away. It's not something that you get just by being an endorsed service, but then you have the options to have access to the ELIXIR coordinated grants, where you can put your service for something that is being named in a work package, for example, or some of the internal projects of ELIXIR. All those things cannot happen if you have not been selected as a service within a node. This also opens the door for you to be selected as a core data resource, for example, more at the ELIXIR Europe level. So one thing is to be a UK node service, another thing is to be an ELIXIR service. There's a few nuances here and there, but you first need to be a node service. So if you're considering that, I'd say have a look at this. There's a whole criteria there on the website as well as to how we select these. It's a published method that we have as well. But primarily the benefits is about the visibility that we give and the almost like a quality stamp on it. I think Carol may want to add something. I see her camera on.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify that ELIXIR has something called core data resources, which are a further endorsement, very similar to the global biodata consortium's sort of badging, as it were. And but first you need to be a node service before you can even put forward into that. So it's a kind of bit of a funnel there, and people put these as badges for when they're applying for grants, because it is an endorsement from a community. We have a rigorous process that the UK actually invented, which has a panel that has a set of criteria which are also on that website. And we have a panel drawn from industry and academia and from the great and the good, and that really it therefore is recognised as something that's gone through peer review through the community, and that is taken into account in funding activities. Of course, the situation of funding in the UK is not as good as it could be, shall we say, Agnes? She says it, you know. That's the understatement of the year. But everything helps. Every little bit helps. So, yes. And we also do, and in fact, this morning, Neil and I were doing some work with our UKRI funders, in order, UKRI representatives, in order to be able to press the case for better resources for the bio community. So we do a lot of behind the scenes lobbying, and that's something that is less kind of transparent to the rest of the community, but we do quite a lot of work in that regard, and Neil in particular is very active from the UK point of view. I do mostly European type work for ELIXIR. He does more the leadership in the UK, but we do a lot of pressurizing, and that is a long haul, right? That's lots of of chicken dinners in tedious committee meetings just to keep making the same case over and over again. But we do it in order to be able to try to secure the resources needed.
Yes, and thank you for that. As Xènia mentioned, a lot of this work is invisible, and ironically, the more powerful, the better it functions, the more invisible it is, because things just work. Things just are. So thank you. Thank you for that.
That's true from everything. So we do quite a lot of standards work in ELIXIR. We do a lot of adoption of standards. We do a lot of training activity. And all of this looks completely obvious once it's working, because why wouldn't you? But actually, of course, behind the scenes, it wasn't a done deal at all. And yeah, you only notice the plumbing doesn't work when the plumbing stops working.
Absolutely.
So and people only pay for the plumber when the plumbing stops working.
Yes, really, we should have the plumbers on retainer and give them appreciation every day before we need them urgently. I have one more question. I think we are nearing the end of our time, but there's still a little bit of time left. So if anyone has questions, please come forward. But I wanted to ask about potential collaborations with infrastructures in other disciplines. So you mentioned PANOSC and a collaboration around training. It sounds a little bit like ELIXIR did more of the work and then just passed on the resources. But are you thinking about or involved in some collaborations to spread that net of connections to other disciplines?
So I wouldn't say that this was handed over then, and ELIXIR didn't put more work. This was done from the University of Manchester more so than ELIXIR, so I'm sure Carol can give some more details. We do have other collaborations. There's collaborations agreements from the ELIXIR Europe side as well. One of the quite obvious ones that you probably have seen more is Australian Biocommons. They've been really partnering with us in so many different areas, and we've learned from them a lot, both for BioFair and for ELIXIR as well. But we don't have any current collaboration agreements with other research infrastructures, not written with a memorandum of understanding, but it is something that we're really keen on exploring and doing more work in those areas, because really we're overlapping more and more. And if we don't have more than just an ad hoc strategy, we really are failing to take as much as we will come from that. But I'll let Carol add anything else to that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Xènia. Yeah, so from the TES point of view, the specific thing there is that PANOSC cloned our infrastructure and then partnered with us to write grant with us. And actually the last grant that they wrote and then they gave us the money. That's the perfect grant where they just ring up and say, here's some money. But they are genuine first-class partners, as indeed are CERN in the training platform, so that as we prepare it as a European digital research infrastructure training platform. This is also true of other resources. In the biosciences area, we have a very strong relationship with Eurobioimaging. We have a memorandum of understanding at the ELIXIR level with Eurobioimaging, but we're also partnering with Eurobioimaging in the UK, particularly around the BioFair use cases. We also work with Emphasis, which is plant phenotyping. We have a memorandum of understanding with BBMRI, which is biobanking, and also with Instruct, which is structural bioinformatics. We also have that with GA4GH, which is standards organization. We have Australian Biocommons. We have a memorandum of understanding, not only at ELIXIR level, but also BioFair itself, as our kind of infrastructure spin-off of ELIXIR-UK, has a memorandum of understanding there, and also with the NIH in the US. Now, we do a lot of work with them, and actually the UK does a lot of the research data management relationship work with the Office of Data Science Strategy in the NIH, particularly through the RDM kit, fair sharing, and so on. So we're we are actually punching quite well above our weight, Agnes, in the UK, in our relationships with all of these different things. And there are many others that I could mention. We're particularly, one of the interesting ones is PSDI, which is the Physical Sciences Data Infrastructure. They keynoted at the BioFair Showcase, and we've been working with them for a while because they use things like Galaxy workflow systems, and they use also some of our underlying infrastructure. So the UK is specialized particularly in middleware, metadata middleware. So we are the founders of RO-Crate, for example, as a metadata mechanism, and also computational workflows and tools. And these are cross-cutting. These are agnostic across disciplines. And so we pioneered them, but they're actually being used by all sorts of digital infrastructures. In fact, Eurobioimaging has adopted RO crates as its standard for its OME ZAR packaging platform that feeds into the EBI. So these are all interconnections. We could draw a dots joining map here.
Yes, absolutely. And it's very exciting to see. So my last question is just what about the future of ELIXIR UK? What do you have in the pipeline? What are some ideas that you're pursuing? Whatever you can tell us, we're curious. What does the future hold for ELIXIR UK?
So I can maybe tell you something about the more tangible things that we know are happening, and they haven't been put out there just yet. But I'm sure Carol can also chip in for the more broader strategy and the vision that we see for this. But some of the things that have happened recently is exactly those flexible bursaries that I mentioned earlier. So we've operated always in a way that we couldn't give funding to our members directly. And this is something that we've been quite happy to do from the start of our newest funding round. So now we have this flexible funding that it's been given out already for flexible bursaries if someone wants to start a community locally. You just need that little bit of funding to even get a meeting together, or if you need travel to go to one of the key conferences and something related to ELIXIR. We're also opening very soon an ambassador program. So this is going to be, for example, if you have a service that's been selected, it's all very good that we give you visibility, but what about going to a conference, putting a stand and talking about what your service does? Those are the kind of small things that at least we think that are going to affect quite a lot of our members in a positive way over the next 3 to 4 years. So I'd say that if you're really interested in using that, sign up and you can see all of those resources and benefits that you can use. But I'll leave it to Carol to talk more about the vision and where we see ELIXIR UK going. I think she's better placed to do this than me.
Well, I mean, it's you've done well there. We see ELIXIR UK as this very strong network. So really what I would like to do is to really broaden that out and be able to resource much more the bringing of European technologies to the UK and vice versa. So to really widen the pipe, shall we say, between the UK and the rest of ELIXIR, I would ideally like to be able to get some active support for our archive databases. But ultimately, what we want to do is to make sure that everybody produces their data in the biospace fair ready and AI ready from the get-go, which I know is the DCC driver. So we're through these ambassador programs, through these flexible bursaries, the things that Xènia was talking about, through the research data management clubs and so on. We're really trying to get it embedded into the research organizations themselves, because you can talk, you get the problem of the last mile, that we have all these great data infrastructures, we have all these great national tools, there's all these resources, but they don't get into the hands of the PhD student or the postdoc actually in the university, or into the poor Stephen battering away in Glasgow. And I've just had an email from somebody in Exeter along these lines. And we really want to be able to support people in the institutions who are really having to use the tools. And that requires quite a lot of resources to be able to do that. So, but that would be another ambition.
Absolutely. And what a great ambition it is. Thank you so much, both of you. I will now hand it over back to Al, who will wrap up the session for us with some more questions for the audience.
Thanks, Agnes. So as Agnes mentioned, we just got a couple of questions and then a nod to our next DRI. And interestingly enough, it was great to hear both PSDI and BioFair being mentioned. We actually kicked off the webinar series with the two back-to-back. So PSDI hosted in February with BioFair in March. So it's great to see this big community coming together as well. So it's, yeah, really interesting talk as well. So as I say, we've got 2 questions and a nod to next week just before we leave you today. So beginning with, do you feel you now have a better understanding of ELIXIR UK? So I can see a few of you in here now. So yeah, please do let us know. A lot of information there, a lot of links in the chat as well. So we're going to be sharing a thank you with you all, as well as links to the slide deck, the recording, and some links from ELIXIR as well. So that'll be sent probably this week with you all. So do feel free to forward that on to colleagues. It certainly sounds like there's a huge amount that can be of interest to the community as well. So yeah, an incredible a large amount of resources, information, all to squeeze in an hour. So thank you for being so articulate in that, Xènia. I should say that's difficult to be able to tell people so much in such a positive way as well. So so well done on that. So well, just bearing in mind the time, we're going to the final question. So have you changed your mind about whether you're a member? I thought this was an interesting question when Xènia first sent it to me actually. So it makes a huge amount of sense now that we are at the end of this webinar, having seen what universities are involved with the program. So yeah, please do get in contact with the team. Their details are in the chat. We'll share them with you all as well, because I feel there's a lot of information that can be shared, a community that can be brought together, and always amazing to see the level of enthusiasm as well. So thank you, Stephen, for that, bringing the enthusiasm as well as everyone else. So great to have you along today as well. So this will be left in the background on WooClap, so do feel free to continue putting a yes or no onto this question. I'll just close off with a slide on next week. So the third DRI in preceding weeks will come to getting to know EOSC and the Path to EOSC UK project. So this webinar will introduce the concept of EOSC, the European Open Science Consortium, services and governance, and provide an overview of the new Path to EOSC project being undertaken by JISC, us at the DCC and UKRI between May and November this year. The webinar will explore the creation of the UK EOS node to engage with other UK research infrastructure and support communities. So I feel joining this webinar series is certainly be of interest to yourself as well. So with that in mind, thank you again for joining us. There's a few of our social media channels on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky, as well as our associate mailing list to find out more about our upcoming DRI webinar series, our International Digital Curation Conference, as well as other activities we have ongoing. Just say a huge thank you to Xènia, to Agnes, and to Carol for adding information about the ELIXIR UK as well. Thank you for all those joining in with the conversation today. We'll be in touch with you about next DRI, as well as more links for how to join the ELIXIR UK community. Thank you.